when starting an anime with a memorable soundtrack, there's one moment near the start where you hear a part of the soundtrack and you realise that this is going to be a god tier OST. When you have moments like that, it usually leaves an impression that lasts for the rest of the series, if not longer. But it's another thing to have two of those moments within the first episode. In episode 1, everyone was left in awe at two scenes. One which I'm showing, which came at the end of the episode, and the underground river scene. Both of these scenes are awe-inspiring, even on rewatching them, and leave you with infinite questions regarding the nature of the abyss. But the OST continues on with a track called Knows Everyday Feels, which is the most accurate title in existence. I can't count a number of regular boring days when all I think to describe the mundanity is a primal xylophone piece. But when Made in Abyss wants to make you feel, it makes you feel with a nice little piece called Pathway. I'm not going to say where it's used because that would just be some major spoilers, so I'll just refer to it as that scene where Samus's final smash is really sad. All of this is making me look forward to when Season 2 comes out next year even more, but Made in Abyss wasn't my favourite OST of 2017. My favourite OST of 2017 is coming up in a bit, but before that... But first, let's have an obvious choice. Yeah, Fooly Cooly, a soundtrack that's so iconic despite the fact it was only added because the director just liked the pillows. And thank God he chose that, because now we can't imagine what Fooly Cooly would look like without them. To quote Gigguk, the soundtrack is the only thing that connects all of the insanity that goes on in Fooly Cooly, and that's all I can say. FLCL's soundtrack is basically given when making a list like this. This and one other soundtrack are just obvious choices which everyone has commented on. Everyone knows the bridge scene. Everyone knows the show likes to slow itself down so it can just be the soundtrack and nothing else. So, all I'm saying is this. Fooly Cooly alternative, to reiterate what I said in my progressive video, don't fuck up. Take it slow. Let's enjoy the soundtrack. Oh, and have some fun with it. Pretty please? Okay, but until alternative makes its run, right the fuck on Fooly Cooly. Forever continue to be badass. Hiroyuki Sawano. For the 5 of you who don't know, he did the OSTs for Attack on Titan, Aldnoah Zero, and many more. I refrain from giving more info as those who've been around this channel for a while will know where this is going. Guys, I tried. I tried to look at this intellectually. Tried to consider the fact Made in Abyss has a wider range on display. But in the end, I'm always going to be praising this soundtrack as the best of 2017. You know which one I'm talking about. The fallout from the past, Breed Creators was a show that was not watched enough in my opinion. Now, a reason that it might not be as popular is that there was barely any action in the middle sections of the show, but I can forgive these sections every time because the second I heard the soundtrack crescendo, my jaw hit the desk. This is Sawano OST, but in all the right ways. Of course, there is the fact that Sawano is just remaking the same 5 songs over and over, but those 5 songs are, in the words of that one person I know who sold his kidney to go and stand around in a field to listen to semi-popular music artists, fucking bangers. But there's also more range than your typical Sawano soundtracks. There's songs like Here I Am, character theme of Mamika, because it says to the audience, hey guys, here I am, enjoy me while I last. It appears that pink-haired magical girls who suffer seem to get a lot of attention on this list. Funny how that works. Of course my favourite from the OST is ALLU, which, because Sawano has a name that sounds more like a URL than a song. But at this point I've driven the track so far into the ground I half expect it to re-emerge piloting Lager. But the song is so epic that when it came to making the second OP, I assume a conversation like this happened.
Right, Mr. Sawano, we need to make a second OP song, so could you just start working on that?
Or I could just do what I did with Aldnoah Zero and just remix the best song.
No, I don't think that'll work this time.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm very... Do I leave the check in the same place as usual?
Yeah. And now, obvious choice number 2. I may be having a lot of no-brainers on this list, but I guess I'll just have to carry that weight. There are two types of people in this world. People who say they like Cowboy Bebop, and liars. This was the first outing of the Kano Watanabe Dream Team, and what a glorious first outing it was. As I talk more about Kano when I did the Zanki no Terror section, I said it's time to talk about that mad genius Watanabe. But it won't go without mentioning that assembling the seatbelts just to make Bebop's soundtrack is no small feat. The main feature of Watanabe's work is the emphasis on the score. In a Watanabe show, there's no such thing as background music, as music takes center stage. In Cowboy Bebop especially, as everything revolves around jazz. The word bebop is a reference to a freeform style of jazz. Episodes are referred to as sessions, and their titles reference a type of music. If the rest of the elements of the show weren't so good, I would be perfectly fine with Cowboy Bebop just being an excuse to showcase the Seatbelt's talent, but, you know, it's Bebop, so everything is amazing. By episode 1, the OST had raised my eyebrows. By episode 2, I was humming along. By episode 5, I was awestruck. Not even the OST that I've put above this is as prolific as the soundtrack to Bebop. But what is the soundtrack above this? Well, if you'll cue the transition... Music is subjective. We all know that. Which is why I'd like to think that my decision is justified. So, to tell you guys the truth, I prefer what I love over what I know is good. I'm going to value something I can have fun with over something with many layers. And using that logic, I say that Soul Eater is my favourite anime series soundtrack. A blind favouritism of Soul Eater? What did you expect from me? The composer behind this is Taku Iwasaki, who also did the OST for Gurren Lagann. In my eyes, the reason I love this OST is the same reason that I love Soul Eater in general. It's off the wall and packed with character. There aren't many moments in the OST where the music just plays out, so instead of associating music with scenes, I associate the music with characters, which, as I mentioned in my Style Over Substance video, Soul Eater has one of my favourite casts in anime, which just makes me love it more. I've been told that the score is somewhat reminiscent of Gorillaz. The author of the manga was clearly a fan, as Maka's second name, Albarn, is a reference to Damon Albarn, an ex-member of Blur and the main contributor behind Gorillaz. Now, I don't listen to much of them, but if this is the kind of thing they inspire, then I need more Gorillaz in my life. The previous soundtracks on this list, I may think of them whenever I think of their respective shows, but with Soul Eater's soundtrack, I hear it no matter what the occasion. The soundtrack can be impressive, but I can't find any that I find as nice to listen to as Soul Eater's. Okay, well, your name, but I promised not to talk about that one. As I said, I know fuck all about music theory, so there's only a set number of ways for me to say that I like music from a series. There's also only a set number of ways that I can end a video. Here's one of them.